a major swerve for the men's WarGames match, a backstage WWE Shake-Up, my review of last Monday night's Raw. That's a joke because it was recorded last week. I'm actually going to be reviewing the episode that went live yesterday, and more. I'm Moustache Davis, and this is the WrestleStash News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Now we've seen the episode of Raw that WWE taped last week, I think we all know who the fifth member of Team OG Bloodline will be. Bronson Reed has joined Solo Sikoa's New Blood faction, who helped him beat Seth Rollins on last night's episode. And even though Seth has turned down Sami, Jay and Jimmy twice, saying he'll never stand side by side with Roman Reigns, I've watched one or two wrestlings in my time. Seth will join them and his former Shield partner to get revenge on Reed. But just one more thing. Unless it's a huge misdirect and we're not giving WWE's multi-layered slow burn approach to pre-existing inter-character tension credit. Unlike the women's division, where characters are friends or enemies depending on what matches WWE needs to book next month, the male wrestlers are actually fleshed out three-dimensional personas with long memories. Seth suddenly teaming with Roman after all that's gone down between them could feel rushed and would almost definitely give Kevin Owens an aneurysm, which is why several wrestling reporters are speculating that Rollins is a red herring, and the real fifth member of the OG Bloodline is CM Punk. CM Punk to OG Bloodline confirmed. Both Fightful's Corey Brennan and PW Insider's Mike Johnson believe Punk will be the fifth member, and that Paul Heyman, who Roman couldn't reach because of his disconnected phone on Friday's episode of SmackDown, is the key. Johnson has fantasy booked that Roman will ask for Heyman's wise man counsel for a fifth member, which will lead to the return of the original Paul Heyman guy, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk. This could also further the reportedly planned Rollins vs Punk feud, which was originally meant for WrestleMania 40 until both men got hurt and Punk's rivalry with Drew McIntyre caught a light. When Punk first returned to WWE at last November's Survivor Series, it was Rollins he was supposed to feud with. They previously interacted with Seth being the special guest referee for his SummerSlam match against McIntyre. How would you book Punk joining the Bloodline? Let me know in the comments down below, where I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere, saying whatever it is, just please don't get injured again. The Bloodline segments were always produced by WWE's highest-ranking backstage agent, Michael P.S. Hayes, who was one of the creative minds behind all-time moments like the trial of Sami Zayn. But with Hayes recently on leave for personal reasons, PW Insider is reporting Bobby Roode and Jamie Noble have been producing the Bloodline segments in his absence, and Roode in particular is receiving tons of praise for stepping up. Bobby hasn't wrestled since 2022 after undergoing neck fusion surgery and appears to have fully transitioned to a backstage role, which means he'll be one of the main producers in the latest chapter of WWE's new era as Monday Night Raw debuts on Netflix from January 6th, which now has an actual page on the Netflix app, not just revealing the show's rating as TV-14, implying a return to more Attitude Era style language and storylines, but also the show's tone description as rousing. Welcome to Monday Night Rousing. This is rousing. This is rousing. Speaking of rousing, the penultimate episode of Luke vs. Pete, The Last Chance, has just gone live exclusively on patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now to watch the whole My GM series so far ahead of next Monday's finale. Here's a clip.
This is our penultimate episode for this little mini run. For you, it'll have felt like a long time.
Yeah.
For us, this has been like a flash because we've recorded all of this in 3 days.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So for us, this is like, man, can you believe we've come this far already? But for you, you're like, no, this is a standard amount of time.
Yeah. Well, it is less time.
It is less time.
We're going to have 2 weeks per episode. So this is only, 3 months instead of 6.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still been
Crazy.
3 months, but for us, it's been 3 days.
Merry Christmas, I think. Is this in December yet? I don't know. I don't know where we are.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I hope you're all having a brat summer.
That's going to be so out of date.
Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to binge the first 11 episodes. But now, here's my review of last Monday night's Raw. in about 5 minutes. The show opened with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez inviting Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton and Candice LeRae down to the ring. Yes, Liv and Nia were feuding for the Sports Washing Championship belt just 2 weeks ago, but WarGames is at the end of the month, so they have to be friends now. Nia told both Liv and Raquel that she doesn't like them, she doesn't dislike them. In fact, she doesn't think of them at all, which is how I am with pineapples on pizza. I just don't care about that debate. But she can't stop thinking about Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair and Naomi. The Powerbuff Girls and Naomi interrupted to reveal they've got back up to Io Sky. Yes, Bianca and Jade were feuding with Io just last month, but WarGames assumes so they've got to be friends now. But Liv pointed out it's still 4-on-5, teeing up an excellent surprise if we hadn't all ruined it for ourselves by reading last week's spoilers. Rhea Ripley awesomely marched down to the ring with an orbital bone protecting face mask on and just screamed, WarGames! It's quite a tonal difference from William Regal's WarGames announcements. This was the coolest Rhea had looked in months, and the faces stood tall. While this has nowhere near the level of character depth as the men's storyline, it was very well done. WarGames was made official for later in the show, and Bianca will face Nia in an advantage match on next week's Raw. Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega then beat Chad Gable and Ivy Nile in an intergender tag, with Chad heelishly trying to hold back Vega. But she's a woman, and Vega getting revenge with a launch top rope Hurricane Rana. Chad's American-made faction felt like one of the hottest in the company when they formed in the summer, but he's lost 2 feuds in a row now against the Wyatt Six and then the LWO. Chad slapped Julius Creed afterwards, making me scared they were already breaking them up like every other team on the roster, but thankfully this just fired the Creeds up. Hopefully this is a sign that they'll actually start winning now, because they deserve so much more. Gunther told Ludwig Kaiser that he wants him to be his own man backstage, and then sought reassurance that he was still the ring general. When Ludwig replied, "Of course you are," it made Gunther a bit too confident, as he went to attack Damian Priest, who, conveniently, was sat at a table like 10 feet away, like he would have definitely heard all of this happening. He's well-titled opponent, having a conversation right there, and he just decided to, I don't know, he just arts and crafts? With his back to them? At least put some headphones on the guy. Anyway, Gunther jumped Priest with a sleeper, and Damian fought him off super easily, barely an inconvenience, whacking him with a steel pipe. Priest finished with the admittedly very cool line, while Gunther might be the general of the ring, on the streets, he's king. This is building Priest very strongly, but it is at the expense of Gunther's dominating character, turning him into a champion racked with self-doubt, which I'm not really into. There are 3 things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and Sheamus wanting the IC belt. Sheamus and Bron Breakker put on a terrific hoss fight with a leaping clothesline through the table, some kind of blockbuster style move off the top rope to the outside, which more looked like Bron trying to headbutt the center of the earth, and even a Breakker running Frankensteiner. After several near falls, the crowd broke into "This is rousing" chants. Bron speared Sheamus, but Sheamus rolled out the ring, which is when Ludwig Kaiser tried to stand out on his own. He attacked both men, causing a DQ, but this was a good kind of DQ, furthering the feud between all 3 men. Dakota Kai got a pre-filmed vignette talking about how she's ready to show everyone why she's a champion. It felt like a separate presentation to Damage Control, and could imply that Raw is also getting a women's mid-card belt soon. With Liv stressed out by Rhea's return, Finn Balor took charge of the Judgment Day, hyping up Dominic Mysterio and Carlito ahead of their tag match against the War Raiders. But it was really a way for Finn to undermine Dom, furthering their tension. Because if you're in a WWE team or faction right now, you will have tension. I don't know how Dom can be a heel with that moustache though. Because this month is Movember! Please go support our Movember page, links in the video description below, because if you send proof of your donation and a picture of your own moustache to support@WrestleTalk.com, you'll get your very own moustache break. Like these fine chaps. Thank you so much to Dom, Daniel, Gilberto, Nick and Julian for donating there and for joining the SWAF Nation Movember Moustache Movement.
Oh, that's what that is.
What do you mean?
Well, I didn't realise you have a moustache.
You being serious? I've had it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just thought it was a Luke thing. I didn't really notice yours.
The War Raiders beat Dom and Carlito pretty easily for Finn and JD to attack the #1 contenders afterwards, which is good because I legitimately forgot Finn and JD are the tag champions again. My brain keeps thinking the Motor City Machine Guns are the only tag champs. The Wyatt Six Final Testament feud was furthered really well by two excellent pre-filmed promos. The first was of Miz and Karrion Kross. Kross accused the Wyatts of just using people to make themselves feel better. Pot kettle black Karrion Kross, while Miz was obsessed about his performance last week to trick the Wyatts into thinking he was remorseful. He thought that acting could be the jumpstart for the Marine 7 to be directed by Scorsese. Maybe it could even be Tarantino's final film. While that sounds like dumb comedy on paper in an otherwise serious program, it actually shows how Karrion is controlling an increasingly deranged Miz. Bo Dallas's reply later in the show promised vengeance, with Bo really looking like Bray with his long hair and beard. Kross's manipulation was felt later on in the show too, making him feel like the undercard's final boss. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods had another argument, with Woods fixating on what Kross said all those months ago. The New Day is dead, and Woods and Kofi are the only ones that don't know it. This set up the New Day versus American Alpha, where Otis was only trying to help Woods, for next week. Earlier on, Seth turned down Jay, Jimmy and Sammy to join their WarGames team. I guess we're not going to hear anything about Jimmy approaching Bron Breakker last week. No follow-up on that. Okay, that's fine. I'll just pop Bloodline Bron next to my Babyface Bron and Gunther Feud Bron storyline Brons that have been bronned. But Jay, Jimmy and Sammy still fought off the new blood members at ringside at the start of the Seth vs Bronson Reed main event. They had a really decent match, built around Seth not being able to put Bronson down for the count of 3, even though he's already put him down for the count of 3 at Crown Jewel 2 weeks ago. Reed would kick out at 1 or stand up pretty quickly after a stomp for the finish. Seth was distracted by Solo Sikoa just doing this on the announcer's table. Letting Reed hit a single tsunami to win. This week's Raw is 69%. Nice. Remember a time when WWE was no good, though? The brand new episode of Worst Match Ever is live now, where Sullivan, Luke and Tempest watch John Cena's worst ever match. Click the video on screen now to watch them watch that.